Hello there, beautiful. Welcome back to my channel. How are you doing today? My name is Joesephyr, and it's time for another Should You Pull video for Opera Omnia. And it's for Cid Raines. Now, we all know that Cid Raines is really good. Before we even go into any of the details of this video, I've talked about him. Lots of other content creators have talked about him. Every social media platform in the world has talked about him. So what is it that makes him so spectacular and such a big hit for the early stages of Lufenia Plus and a lot longer going forward as well? Come and join me as we take a look at him, his banner, his event, all that good stuff before we ultimately say yes, you should pull. But let's give some reasons as to why. Now, of course, before we get started, don't forget to check out all of my social links in the description box below, including Twitter, Twitch, Discord, Patreon, and all of that good stuff. And, of course, don't forget about the meetup that I'll be hosting if you're in the UK towards the beginning of November. So if you've got time to come on down, have some drinks, play some games, it will be absolutely delightful to see you all. And obviously with Patreon, I do actually shout out one of my patrons every time I release a video. And today that person is going to be Kellen, who has Frog from Chrono Trigger on their title card, and honestly, you guys have been turning it out with the choices on these title cards because I love making them when they're got these really cool like cutscenes and stuff that I can play around with, and I'm massively thankful to you guys as like obviously for supporting the channel as much as you do, but also giving me the opportunity to be creative and make these fun little title cards for everybody. And if you'd like one or you'd like to support the channel in any way, then definitely have a look in the description box below for my link to my Patreon. And lastly, of course, don't forget to check out all the other content creators out there and all the resources out there for Dissidia Opera Omnia as well. So let's take a look at Cid Raines, his banner, and actually what all the fuss is about when it comes to Cid Raines. So looking at the banner, you have Cid Raines in his full kit, so EX, LD, etc. Mog and his full kit. Mog doesn't get anything new here, but a second LD is a second LD. And I don't have Mog, and a lot of people didn't pull for Mog the first time around. Chances are you're probably not going to use him all that much going forward because he doesn't gain anything really, but it's a consolation prize is a consolation prize. And then we have the last chance for Zidane BT, and then we have Stein as EX on there for Chaos Challenge purposes. Now, a lot of people are going to be spending resources here to try and get Zidane's BT here, and Cid Raines is absolutely the reason why. So we're going to look at Cid Raines, but we're actually going to go backwards when we talk about his skills, because I feel that his LD and EX buffs, etc. actually kind of, you know, give context to the rest of his skills. So, Heavenly Fist is when you've got LD boards and everything on there. 6-hit Brave HP attack, single target HP, 3 times. That gives him a new HP attack afterwards, which we'll talk about in a moment. And he like doesn't use a skill use on his next turn. He also gains a buff that means that every attack he does a launch. So Cid Raines is a launch-based character, but there's actually a lot more to him than just launching. He also increases party damage up generally. He also increases the amount of damage that they do like during launches by quite a large number. It's just a really good move, and those 3 HP dumps are not going to be just 3 HP dumps, just trust me on this. His EX attack. For some bizarre reason, and I still can't quite fathom why he has this, his EX attack has Mass Dispel and Mass Isuna on it for some reason, and then he does 3 HP dumps on it again. Like his, and again we'll go his when he's comes out again in the future for his Lost chapter, he gets a C90. That makes his EX hit even harder, and it's, you know, it's not a massive addition to his kit, but his kit is this good that he doesn't need to have loads added to it. He then gets a launch off of this, but if you've used the LD, you'll be able to launch off of everything he does anyway, and 6 turns of his special ability, which is Metamorphosis. And he also gets delay off of this, so you're able to do better with the launches, and you get attack up, max brave up, brave damage up when you're doing knockback, HP damage up when, you know, when doing knockback, all that good stuff for him. The other thing with his LD, and I've gone backwards with the AX and with the delay and everything, and you'll notice this on a lot of Cid Raines' kit, he also moves allies' turns to after his. So if you've used Onion Knight before, you'll know what to expect with this. Except this time, you're doing it while launching. And doing a lot of damage in the process, and giving yourself free skills, and HP percentage ups party-wide, and Mass Isuna, Mass Dispel, and we haven't even gotten to the follow-up yet. Like, there's a lot going on with Cid Raines. So now that we've got that, I find it a bit strange that Metamorphosis is his special effect and not his regular buff, because his regular buff or frame buff is the one that gives him the guaranteed knockback on every attack and not his special effect, which is kind of weird. But moving on, we're going to look at Cavalry Rush, which is a 6-hit Brave HP attack that also moves one of your party members up a turn, so to go straight after him. So this is where the Aphmau Cid Raines combination comes in, because obviously Aphmau's LD attack makes it so that she has a buff to target one of your party members to say, every time Aphmau acts, that party member acts. Enter Cid Raines, who has a skill 2 and an LD that guarantees launches and says, Aphmau, why don't you come stand next to me again? Aphmau then goes, Cid, why don't you have another go? Aphmau, carry on. Can you see where I'm going with this? It's a lot of damage and a lot of turn manipulation and a lot of good stuff, because your third character can have a BT effect active and it will never tick down because the other two are taking all the turns up. And then we come to skill 1. Now skill 1 itself isn't all that impressive, to be honest. It is a 5-hit Brave HP attack that does split AoE damage and grants him the buff Cavalry Commander, which is his typical offensive buff, attack max bravery, all that stuff. However, it also grants him Impact Strike. Impact Strike is dumb. Really, really, really dumb. While he has his LD buff up, I too will challenge my fate, or however that gets translated, and after he initiates a knockback on every attack he does, he then follows the launch process as normal, so bear in mind that he's probably lifting people's turns forward, so they're definitely going to get in on the launch. At the end of that, Cid comes back around again to do a 3-hit Brave HP attack 3 times that ignores defense during the launch still. Now, this is gargantuan. It is insane. Like, ignoring defense on follow-ups whilst doing launches and getting the percentile damage increase just by being in a launch is crazy. The fact that he's then manipulating turn order to pull them forwards so that they're definitely going to get in on the launch and enable silly combos. The fact that he's got, for some strange reason, Mass Dispel and Asuna on his EX, so a regularly castable ability, and has free skills on his skills, so he's able to use Cavalry Rush and his Ruinga Storm, which he has a silly number of cast uses of anyway, just to be able to just keep going. His damage potential is astronomical. He has an HP plus that comes off of his LD as well, Heavenly Fist. 3-hit Brave HP attack, delays all enemies by a turn, instant turn rate, deals splash damage, and obviously does knockback because he has his LD buff up. The fact that a move like this is arguably the least used move in his kit goes to show quite how silly this character actually is. Like, he does so many things all at once, but he does damage like nothing you've ever seen up until this point in the game, and he continues to do that for a long time as well, because of the fact that he's ignoring defense on those follow-ups, and he's getting guaranteed knockbacks, allowing your other characters to do damage as well. So, combo potential, check. Damage, check. Support capabilities, check. He's got HP damage plus, he's got the Asuna and Dispel. He's just fantastic. Like, there's just nothing wrong with him. Like, you know, if you're going into an event that has launch immunity, yeah, there are characters you're probably going to use over Cid Raines. I've seen people do events where they've been launch immune and Cid Raines still gets used. Like, it's crazy. Like, the amount of things that he's able to do just from his, like, the 4 moves that he has, 5 if you include his HP plus. It's just mad. He has delay. He has turn manipulation. I could go on and on about how crazy this character is, but I think, honestly, just watch video clears that use him. You will see for yourself just how stupid he actually is. And as if that wasn't enough for you, his call abilities are pretty silly as well. So his regular call is a 6-hit Brave HP attack that party batteries, so it's his skill 2, initiates a knockback straight away, and does the select an ally to move up to the turn after the caller. So you're getting turn manipulation a la Onion Knight, whilst also launching and batterying at the same time. Great. His LD call, however, really, really silly. So, guaranteed knockback, gives you the turn manipulation, just like Onion Knight, but for both characters. The last HP attack doesn't consume bravery, which actually happens in his regular LD attack as well, meaning that his launch follow-up attack is going to do even more damage. And then You get the Heavenly Fist call ability, which is your attacks always initiate a knockback. Now, you only get this for 2 turns. However, put this on a burst character. Put this on a burst character batteries. Zidane, Ishtola, Yuna. Your damage is going to go up a lot just by using this call ability. There is literally nothing wrong with Cid Raines. Like, as far as offensive characters go, you can't get much better than this. It's very, very hard to argue against it. And then armor-wise, he has attack keystone and then 20% across, like, for both bravery and HP damage limits on him. You will probably want to use blue armor on this. He will, like, if you've set him up correctly, if he's hitting damage caps, which, bear in mind that he's ignoring defense on those follow-ups, that's going to increase your damage just on its own. So I would say it was well worth using, using your ingots on his blue armor. I think it's very, very good. But like I said, there are reasons to not use Cid Raines. They are so few and far between, and he is still used in like JP to this day, even after his C90 like nudges him but doesn't overhaul him in any way. And yet I still see you like Aphmau and him used in combination on Divine Bahamut, which just came out in JP. And Cid Raines absolutely doesn't need Aphmau to be good either. He is just a fantastic character. So let's take a look at the Lufenia mission that's going to come along with Cid Raines' event. And it's just as well that Cid Raines is as good a character as he is and as long-lasting as he is, because without him, this Lufenia mission is challenging, to say the least. The reason for that is the orb itself. The orb itself asks you to launch the enemy for +1. So if you've got a team full of launchers, sure, +1, but that's not gonna cut the mustard by itself. You need to deal 250,000 or more HP damage in a launch attack, and that does not include the attack that was used to do the launch. So it has to come off from your party members within that launch. So Cid Raines is obviously designed for this because his follow-up is going to add probably that amount of damage onto the attacks by itself, but without him, you're having to rely on capped bravery and HP damage percentages, and then the extra percentage that's added on at the end of a launch in order to deal that amount of damage. Now, you can go into this with characters like Zidane or Sync, preferably with Aphmau, in fact, ideally with Aphmau, in order to use those launches and gain bravery. But this is Lufenia Plus. Brave gains, etc. are a lot lower than we're used to. So you can use those, and like Zidane with BT Plus will work well here because obviously you battery a lot off of him. Porum is actually very good here because of the way in which her calculations are made, so you can then use her to gain lots of bravery and just punch through that way. Yuna is used very frequently in this particular mission. As a matter of fact, your ideal team here is going to be Cid Raines, Aphmau, and Yuna. That is going to be your easy win strategy. And friend Cid Raines are obviously going to help. If you have, like, to be honest with you, if you have Cid Raines, you will make mincemeat out of this event. If you don't, it's going to be challenging. So, on top of the requirement itself, the enemy will put up shields that about 400,000 HP that you then need to break through, and it's an HP shield, not a bravery shield, so you're not going to deal any HP damage until that shield is gone, whilst also reducing the amount of HP damage they take, and then having a recast attack that does loads of damage, unbreaks them, and you know, they do extra HP damage as long as they have those shields up. So you need to do a lot of damage quickly, and they frame their turns, so delay isn't going to work either. You have to use something like Cid Raines, which is turn manipulation, or Aphmau, etc. Setzer can help here because he has battery, he has freeze, he has ways of getting around some of these moves, but realistically, the path of least resistance is going to involve Cid Raines. There are plenty of clears out there that don't feature him, or at least feature only him as a friend unit, and then we'll use Zidane, Lael, Tifa, Sync, you know, they're those kinds of characters that have launch in their kit. But I think by and large, because Cid Raines is bound to be such a popular unit, the vast majority of players will probably just use him in the event. So now we come to the, I'd say big question, but it's not really a big question, on whether I feel that one should be pulling for Cid Raines. And I think that, yes, to put it simply, that's it. That's all I have for you. He just does so much. Like, his damage is astronomical. His support capabilities are weirdly potent for a character like him. He's a launch character, and launch characters do typically do very well, like in terms of longevity, because launch as a mechanic is very powerful. His calls are really good. He has busted combos with certain other characters. He enables burst effects to last pretty much indefinitely in combination with Aphmau. And because he does so much damage and defense ignore is such a big part of a lot of kits going forward, he just lasts and lasts and lasts. There are so many events that you can use him on as your primary damage dealer and not even like bat an eyelid on how much damage he's able to deal. Not only that, but obviously he does make his own Lufenia a lot easier than it would be without it. Can you live without him? Absolutely. There is no one character in this game that you cannot live without, including Cid Raines. He's a very powerful character, but there are clears for his Lufenia and every other Lufenia out there that don't involve him. Do you want him? Yeah, you do. Like, it's like, I sat there and I was talking to people, like, when it came to would you pull, stuff like that, and the only reasons that I could realistically think of when it came to should you pull for Cid Raines that were negative were, I don't like him, and I can't afford him. That was literally the only two reasons I could think of not to pull for him, because he just does so many things. Like I said, launch immune, you probably might want to bring along a different character than somebody who is so launch-centric, but those aren't the most frequent things in the world. There are far more events that you can bring him to than not. And hey, if you happen to get Morg and Zidane BT along the way, fantastic. And then of course it's time for Would You Pull, the section of the video where you, the viewer, get your chance to have your voice be heard and let everybody know whether you would or wouldn't pull on any given banner and why. Now this is not going to come as a surprise to anybody, but we're leaning on the side of yes when it comes to Cid Raines' banner. Now, a lot of the comments that I got, and a massive thank you to my patrons, etc. for putting their comments and their votes out, and this was one that was very quickly voted on as well, because I'm sure a lot of people are excited for this banner. 73% of people said that we're going to use gems here, 22% of people said we're using 100 or more tickets, 2% said less than 100 tickets, 2% said no. So, what I'm gathering from the people that have said no, or even something similar to that, and it's a very small percentage, of that they simply don't like him because they are worried that he will become a crutch for people and that he's too hyped, and therefore people don't want to rely on a character like that when they would rather have a wider variety of options, and that is absolutely fair enough, and I can't even fault that. But let's go into some of the comments. Doma Dragoon says, I know that people are very hyped for this banner, but I would advise that you take a day to think about if you really want and need him. That way the server stress will be that much less when I pity him in the first hour. To tell you the truth, like I love this comment because I think it's really funny. But also, I'm dreading pulling for Cid Raines because you guys have seen whenever a character I really want or is really hyped comes around, it's typically going to be a pity. So I'm going straight to gems for this one. I'm not fannying about with tickets beforehand. I just can't go through the hassle of it. Maybe this time I won't pity this one or get close to it. Who knows? Gino Jiraiya says, as somebody who genuinely enjoys chase and launch-based characters, amen, I will definitely be pulling for Cid. Also, the fact that Cid can follow up on his own launch as unique as it is, definitely not missing out on this, using tickets for it and want to save gems. I find this very interesting because by saying you definitely don't want to miss out on it, but you're using tickets for it, just be cautious of the fact that if you're going to use tickets for it and then don't get what you want, are you willing to skip that? And like, for those of you that are, absolutely fair enough, but I feel that one statement is slightly contradictory to the other, but he is a very, very powerful character, and there's no denying it. He is just very good. So I just hope that, you know, if you are pulling on tickets, I wish you the best of luck. Kellen, who was our patron from earlier, says, by all accounts, I don't need anything on this banner. I have launches in Lael, Cloud, Cecil, and Kais. I have cleanses in Theodore, Yuna, and Balthea. I also have Zidane BT, so that's one more reason not to have to pull. I'm still going gems on this banner for 3 reasons. I want to save up tickets when I'm able. Like Porum and Setzer before him, he just makes life easier. I would hold that in like glowing rainbow letters if I could. He's not mandatory, no unit is, but the fact that he can do as much as he does can help new and experienced players exponentially, both on the team and as a friend unit, and as a cool ability. He complements launch teams beautifully and can cleanse with his EX when Lufenia plus bosses start to inflict debuffs or make moves outside of their turn at HP thresholds, like Pandemonium did. Also, million plus launch damage per turn is nothing to sniff at. I mean, I'd agree with that. Though I'm not an FF13 fan by any means, using 13 characters in Opera Omnia has been fun and made me appreciate them and their moveset more, and Cid Raines will only add to that ensemble. Also, Mog's not a bad get either, with cleanse and water damage, and he'll be a pleasant bonus to get, so I don't have to worry about getting when his C90 releases. Absolutely agree with everything said here, especially, like, there's 2 points that I think that are really noteworthy here. The fact that he makes life easier, like, for some players, like, there are players that really like to, like, challenge themselves, make things more difficult. Like, I mean, I did my clear for Sync Lost Chapter with a team that I probably could have made much easier for myself. But sometimes people do just want the path of least resistance, and Cid Raines is absolutely that character in a lot of ways. And launch teams are very fun. They're very long lasting. We've seen the Cloud, Dark Knight, Cecil, and Kais has worked for eons. Lael has been added to that, and Cid Raines definitely jumps into that bunch as well. And I also think the fact that learning to appreciate a character outside of your original fandom through a spin-off is a good thing. I have found that, like, I've explored things like the Crystal Bearers, because I really like Lael in this game, and I like him a lot more, and I appreciate the character from that game, even though I've never played that game before, and like I'd seen him in Opera Omnia, and I think that's a really cool thing to acknowledge, because I don't think enough people appreciate that sometimes you can, like, your destination may be fandom for a particular game, but the journey to which you get there can come from any number of means. And then lastly, Atoy says, I'm pulling, but mostly as a precaution. I've pulled on the other key meta units like Tifa, Porum, and Setzer and tended not to use them, but sometimes have to break glass and pull one out. Raines is unlikely to be a regular for me, but too much is packed into his kit to simply let it pass. So again, this comes into that. He's great to have if you're struggling with an event, or like an event in which he thrives, then you can just kind of go, okay, I'm kind of done with this now. Because not everyone's like me and posts their Lufenia clears for all to see. Sometimes it's okay if you just want to be lazy and just, like, go through it with the path of least resistance and just get it done. And Cid Raines absolutely 100% gets the job done. So that's going to be all from me. Thank you all very much for watching. Let me know in the comments below whether you're pulling for Cid Raines, or more specifically, if you're not pulling for Cid Raines. And I'd love to hear people's reasons as to why they might not want to pull for him, because I've spoken to a couple of people who have given their reasons, and I'd like to hear from you as well. So don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, and let me know what you think of Cid Raines and all the different events that you're planning on using him in. So thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Good luck and take care. Bye now.